Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Today we're going to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville on the morning of June 29th, 1867, here on the stately campus bearing the architectural vision and inspiration of Thomas Jefferson. A grand procession of administrators, faculty, alumni, and students marched through a scorching heat into the Great Hall for Commencement Day. The formal program began with music and prayer, followed by the time-honored presentation of diplomas, then a series of awards presented by the head of the faculty. Following the exercises, which ended about 11:30 a.m., everyone headed outside to enjoy refreshments under the cooling shade of the trees. Folks milled about, congratulating the students and basking in the moment. At noon, everyone filed back into the hall to listen to an address by an Alumnus and Confederate veteran, Marmaduke Johnson. He's pictured here. Well known and much respected, people listened to what he had to say. Johnson played an important role in the lead up to secession, a criminal lawyer and member of the 1861 Virginia Secession Convention. He escorted Robert E. Lee to the Virginia Senate chambers when that body conferred upon him command of the state's forces. In early 1862, Johnson organized the Richmond Light Artillery Battery, and the men elected him to be their captain and commander. He led that battery into the Battle of Antietam and served in every major campaign with the Army of Northern Virginia through the Appomattox Courthouse campaign. Along the way, he advanced to lieutenant colonel and battalion command. In the waning days of the war, his beloved nephew and fellow artillerist, Colonel William Willie Pegram, suffered a mortal wound at the Battle of Five Forks. As Johnson stood before the crowd gathered at the University of Virginia on that hot afternoon in 1867, he delivered a speech that recalled the glory days of Virginia, the terrible loss of comrades in arms, the military occupation of the federal government, and the future after Reconstruction. A correspondent present at the speech shared it with the Richmond Dispatch, which printed it on July 2nd. Here's the essence of what the correspondent recalled Colonel Johnson having to say. It begins in this way. Colonel Johnson began by contrasting the circumstances of the present occasion with those under which we were wont to greet each other in the good old days that are gone. We come with blended emotions of gladness and sadness and meet today as we have never met before. The few years that have intervened since the Society of Alumni had their last reunion in 1860 embrace a period of sorrow and woe, such as been rarely, if ever, crowded into the same space of time. We gazed then upon a happy, prosperous land. We look out now upon a desolated, ruined country and see dark clouds all around us. And alas, how many vacant chairs of those who once mingled with us in these festive scenes and added luster to them by their brilliant talents. It has not been simply the passing away of our elder brothers, yielding to nature's imperative call, but even the young have been taken in the full tide of health and promise. What a constellation of brightest jewels has been torn from the diadem of our alma mater. Johnson spoke very feelingly of our younger brother, Colonel Willie Pegram, who, just as he was entering our ranks of alumni, responded to the call of his country, and after illustrating the character of a Christian soldier and gentleman by a brilliant career, which made him famous, fell at Five Forks in those last sad days which witnessed the fall of our Confederacy. Our brothers have fallen on every field of glory, from Gettysburg to the western boundary of Texas. In turning from these sad reminiscences, these questions naturally arise. What have been us as a people? Where and what are we now? What is to be our future? Johnson did not propose to discuss the causes of our troubles. This is no time for crimination or recrimination. But The stubborn fact stares us in the face that we have lost our liberties, that we look in vain for the fragments of the Constitution, which are utterly disregarded by a military despotism, that the legislature has absorbed the other departments of the government, and the people of the South left to the caprice of military officers who, while they may be here and they have some regard to justice, are after all governed simply by their own will. If anyone doubts this, let him look today at the condition of our once prosperous old Commonwealth. Her glory is everywhere, but her privileges and liberties are gone. Her legislative acts may be nullified, and the right of habeas corpus and of trial by jury may be virtually set aside at the will of some military subordinate who may be well posted in military matters, the cut of a coat, the proper appearance in the ballroom, and etc., whose breastpin may outweigh his brains, and who knows no more about civil law than a hog does about a holiday, who may enter the courtroom with the air of a detective or with the pomposity of one clothed in authority, which we devoutly pray may be brief, and insult our judges as he sets aside their decrees. Johnson then alluded to the former extent of territory of the Old Dominion, now West Virginia, to her magnificent grant of territory to the federal government, which was reared into the states and now help her oppressors, and to the cruel and unconstitutional division of the state during the war. Johnson would have not alluded to these things but for the important lessons they teach. They call loudly upon all to bend every energy to the work of Reconstruction in its broadest sense. We are members of the United States and must continue so, either as hewers of wood and drawers of water, or as equals with the North. Johnson spoke of the power of the educated men of the country to shape and direct popular action, and earnestly urged them to come up to their duty in persuading the people to set about the work of Reconstruction. He made also an eloquent appeal to the young men just entering life as those who were to shape the future destiny of the South. It is neither wise, nor manly, nor brave to stand still and grieve over the past. All is not lost. Our rich land, broad waters, and mineral resources remain. We still have brave men and noble women. And while we are proud of the past, let us not lie down in apathy, but come up nobly to meet present duty. Let us enter the glorious paths of truth and virtue, and by earnest toil show that peace hath her victories, as well as war. He drew a hopeful sketch of the future and eloquently urged that we rally around our dear old mother and make Virginia hereafter, as heretofore, the brightest star in the American constellation. The orator then passed to speak at some length of the paramount importance of education under our present circumstances, and closed with an earnest appeal to the alumni to rally around the university and help her to continue to be the great center of the Southern Republic of learning. So that was the end of his comments. Now, 4 years later, in 1871, Colonel Johnson died at the relatively young age of 45. He did not live to see the end of Reconstruction. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.